Today we are looking at a couple of more derivative rules, starting off sine and cosine, so taking the derivative of these. Now remember this notation here, d dx, the derivative with respect to x, all right, the derivative with respect to x, d dx of sine of x. Now what all of these derivative rules right here are, they're really kind of replacement rules. Whatever you see, you replace it with something else. So if you see a sine that you are taking the derivative of, wherever you see a sine, you just replace that with a cosine. The derivative with respect to x of cosine, wherever you see a cosine, you're taking the derivative. Wherever you see a cosine, you replace it with a negative sine. This is probably my favorite, the derivative of e to the x, the natural exponential function. The derivative of e to the x is e to the x. That's why they call it the natural exponential function. Remember, derivative is rate of change. So the rate of change of e to the x is equal to the position of e to the x. Wherever e to the x is, that is also its rate of change. So it changes proportionate to its position. So kind of cool stuff. So these right here, 3 derivative rules that you're going to want to have written down for the following problems. Because the big thing we're getting into today are the product rule and the quotient rule. Now the product rule and the quotient rule, they're kind of these formulas you follow, and they're a long kind of string of information, okay? What I want to do is I want to give you some methods to dealing with these, kind of a process to help you figure them out. So the derivative of 2 functions being multiplied together, so f of x times g of x. What that ends up being is f times g prime, so f times the derivative of g, and then you add f prime times g, the derivative of f times g. So there's 2 things you can do here. You can just remember this formula, memorize it, or you can go about a process that I like to call putting the puzzle pieces together. You have a bunch of puzzle pieces. You have f, you have g, you have f prime, you have g prime. All these puzzle pieces, to make a puzzle, you put the puzzle pieces together. So you get your puzzle pieces, put your puzzle pieces together for product rule. So here's what I like to do. F of x equals these 2 things being multiplied together. So what we have is we have 5x squared plus 2. We have a quadratic function. We have sine of x, a trig function. We're multiplying them together. So when you multiply, that means you want to do the product rule. So here's what I'm going to have you do here, okay? Is we're going to set up the puzzle pieces. Now the way I do this is I say I have f and g. F is just the first function. Whatever in my product comes first, that'll be f. G will then be the second function. So my first piece right here, 5x squared plus 2, g, my second function, sine of x. So I have f and g. Well, those are half of my puzzle pieces. I need all my puzzle pieces to put my puzzle pieces together. So I need f prime and I need g prime. So I'm going to take the derivative of f, I'm going to take the derivative of g. Now when you take the derivative, it's very likely you're using more than one derivative rule. So for 5x squared plus 2, overall, we're using the sum and difference rule. But then for each piece, we're going to use the power rule. So the derivative of 5x squared, bring that exponent down, decrease the exponent by 1, so the square just becomes a 1, and plus 2, that constant goes away. Remember, derivative is rate of change. The rate of change of a constant is 0. That's why they call it a constant, because it's not changing. All right? Sine of x, the derivative of sine, this is a replacement. Okay, sine, wherever you see it, gets replaced with cosine. So now we have all our puzzle pieces. What we're going to do is we're going to put our puzzle pieces together. So f of x becomes f prime of x. Now to put the puzzle pieces together, we're just going to kind of like cross multiply almost. The 5x squared plus 2 and the cosine of x That's our first piece. So you see we have F and we have G prime. And then we'll do the other cross. Plus 10x sine of x. Here's the great thing about product rule. You get your puzzle pieces, you put your puzzle pieces together, and you can be done. You can leave it in that long form. All right? So, what comes first? What comes second? F and G. Get your primes, put your puzzle pieces together doing that cross. Now, quotient rule. It's kind of the same thing. It is the derivative of a quotient, so a function divided by another function. This is what you need to do. G times F prime minus F times G prime all over G squared. Now, here's the thing. You can remember this formula, you can memorize it, or you can do this cool kind of rhyme. So we have a little rhyme you can remember. Low d high minus high d low all over low squared. Low d high minus high d low over low squared. Low d high minus high d low over low squared. Low d high minus high d low over low squared. What we're looking at is f of x, what's up top, we're going to call that the high function because it's up high. G of x, we're going to call it the low function, it's down low. So low d high, the low function g of x, d high, the derivative of the high function, minus high function, f of x, the one up top, d low, g prime, derivative of low, all over low squared. So low d high minus high d low over low squared. Low d high minus high d low over low squared. Now, how I'm going to set this up is going to be similar to product rule. I'm going to get all my puzzle pieces. So I need f, the high function. Now that's going to be what's up top, e to the x. My low function, what's down below? So I have f and g, my high and low functions. Now let's get their derivatives, f prime and g prime. Now the derivative of e to the x, this is very nice. It's just e to the x. The derivative of low. Now overall, I'm going to do sum and difference rule. One of those pieces requires power rule. Another piece requires a trig rule. So multiple derivative rules all at the same time. So derivative of 2x is 2, which when you think about it, that's a linear function, 2x. What's the slope of 2x? Well, the slope is 2. Slope is rate of change. Derivative is rate of change. So the rate of change of 2x is 2. Derivative of cosine would be negative sine of x. So now I got all my puzzle pieces. Let's go ahead and put all those puzzle pieces together. So we have f of x to start with. F prime of x. Low d high, so the low function, the derivative of the high function. 2x plus cosine of x times d high. Big difference, difference between quotient and product is quotient has a subtraction or a difference. That was the joke I made. Whereas product has a sum. All right. So then minus high d low. So the high function, e to the x, d low, 2 minus sine of x. All over your low function squared. And you can leave it just like that. So, product rule, quotient rule, get your puzzle pieces, put your puzzle pieces together, a fun little rhyme that doesn't really rhyme for quotient rule.